like I said, if you didn't, please email support@paya.com. So when you're logging in using those temporary credentials, the system is going to promptly ask you to update to a permanent password. And once you are logged in, you will automatically brought to the dashboard, which will look like this. And we are here at the home page. We're going to be starting on the left-hand side of the dashboard where you will see quick actions. There are two options that you are able to do under this feature. First, we'll talk about the transaction search. Here you have these fields. You can put in as little or as much information that you have to look up that transaction. Be mindful of the start and end date. It is defaulted by 30 days, but if you need to do an extensive search, you can do so by clicking on whatever date that you need be. Okay, the second option under quick action is the sales transaction. As you can see, each field has an asterisk, which means everything needs to be completely filled out. If you do not want to require that customer's extra information of address, you can deselect require address fields. And all it asks you to put the customer's name and their card number information. And by doing so, once you submit that transaction, you'll have a pop-up screen letting you know if that transaction has been approved or declined, and you will see it gives you an order number, authorization code, and an ABS response. Here you can also view the receipt, and if need be, if you need to print out the receipt for reporting purposes for yourself, you can. If you need the customer to sign it, you need to print it out as well. You can also save it and for your reporting purposes as well. Okay, and that is quick actions. And now we're going to go to the center of the dashboard and we're going to talk about the news column. So any event that Paya is experiencing any service interruptions or any scheduled maintenances, you should be able to see that there. Under the news, we have the batch summary. This is going to give you a numbers looks of the transactions within your open batch. As you can see, we have one already when we did our sales transaction under quick actions. Here you'll see the total number of sales, overall volume of those sales, combined total amounts of debits, numbers of refunds, which are credits, and basically there's a total volume of everything that you have processed on the terminal. Okay, under batch summary, we have recurring summary. Here, this is where you will be able to have a shortcut to access your groups and managing those groups and schedules, and how you're going to set up those recurring transactions into review. After recurring summary, we have account overview. This will allow you to put this account into a testing environment. So if you want to test out that terminal, you can. Just be advised, if you have any open batches, make sure those batches are settled before then. After account overview, you have integration summary. And the integration summary is it's basically where you'll be managing the departments and products that you have throughout the shopping cart. All right, and then last we have the EFT summary. If you have ACH services or virtual checks enabled with us on this account, this is going to allow you to see the total numbers of rejected payments in the last 3 days, and also to see your pending repayments, which are transactions that are scheduled to be deposited into your account. Okay, we're going to scroll back up and we're going to go to the second tab, which is transactions. We're choosing credit card. This is where you'll mainly process transactions throughout the terminal. Unlike quick actions, you don't have the option to deselect address. You will need to fill out all the required fields that has the asterisks to process the transactions. As you see, the telephone, fax, and email doesn't have an asterisk. Those can be used used for reporting purposes. If you need to email the receipt to the customer, you can um, provide them with that email so they can receive their transaction receipt. You also have a ship to option. Um, it's not necessary to fill out unless you are selling those products online to ship to the customer. And if you select on billing address, everything that you put over here for bill to will automatically apply. At the bottom under order information, we have order ID. If you have a specific or unique order customer ID number, that's fine. Um, just know that Paya, the system, basically will generate one for you. Of course, you have the transaction type, which is always going to be automatically set to sell, but you do have 3 other options, which is opt only, credit, and force. Opt only and force kind of go together. Credit will be a refund. As we're putting in the information, you do have an option as well to put in the CVV number. It is not required. If you would like to put it in, that's fine, but the transaction will still process either way. If tax is applied, you can put so there. And then at the bottom here, you have a notes and memos. If there's anything that's related to the customer that you need to put here, you can do so. Just know this will not be shown on any receipt that goes out to that customer or any confirmation emails that you send to your customer. This is just for reporting purposes only. So once you do all that, you submit transaction and you will see another pop-up screen letting you know when that transaction was approved or declined, giving you another order number, authorization code, and what have you. Again, you have the option to view the receipt. You can also process another transaction, or you can view your current batch to see what you have processed so far. And this is going to basically take you to our 3rd tab option, which is batch management. So this one shows you the transactions of your open batch. You have the option to manually settle your transactions. However, it is standard practice that all accounts are set up for automatic settlement, which is usually at 10 or 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time daily. First, we will talk about these 3 files we see here to the right. These are your export options. This is going to be available throughout the Paya Virtual Terminal. This will allow you to pull any report that you're viewing into either an Excel or PDF file sheet. For the individual transactions you see listed below, you'll see the customer's information, the card type, the date, what kind of transaction type it was. And then you'll see some options here as well on to the right. We'll talk about these 4 real quick. First, we'll talk about view. This is going to allow you to see a complete detail of that transaction. And if you need to review that receipt again, if you need to put in another note or memo for this transaction, you can do so here as well. All right. The second option we have is void. Basically, if you need to reverse the transactions and the funds need to be placed back on the customer's card, you can do so here by clicking yes, and that transaction is void. The third option we have is process. This will allow you to process another transaction from that same customer using the previous information you have received. If you need to update the dollar amount, you can. If it was a wrong dollar amount, you can reprocess that. If you want to make another note for that reason why, and submit. Again, letting you know it has been approved, view receipt, process another transaction, or go back to your current batch. Okay, and then we have recurring. Just another shortcut for creating a recurring schedule for a customer, almost like an automatic payment. We will get more into recurring payments as we move along. if this applies. Okay, so we're going to leave batch management, and now we're going to go to reporting, and we're going to go to transaction search. Transaction search works exactly the same as the quick action option, but it will be a more detailed search. You can put in whatever information you have. I'll go back a little further to see if do that. And once you have the transactions pulled up, you will see all the information as you saw in batch management, but here you have no option to manually settle your batches. So if you need to do this kind of search, let's say to process a refund or to perform a refund or credit, you can pick a certain transactions from here. You will go to process. And all you need to do is change the transaction sales type to credit. You can also do a partial refund as well if you want to say this was supposed to be for $15 and not $45, you can do so as well. And submit that transaction. Okay, that's the transaction search. Here we have transaction activity. If you want to see what today's activity looked like, you submit that. You can see all and everything that you have done for today. Back to reporting, transaction activity. If you want to see what the last 7 days look like, this will give you a total view of that, all the information that has been processed in the last 7 days. If you want to see what the last 30 days look like, you can do so here as well. This will give you a summary, what kind of cards were used, the total volume of sales, graphs, everything that you need will be here. All right. On the reporting, we're going to current batch. This shows all the processes and activities of your open batches. Settled batches. Oops, so sorry. Give me a second here. I can go back. There we go. Okay, well, let me do that. Settled batches basically is just a list of all batches that settled in the last month. They can go back to even further. They can go back to a more extended time. Each one will have its own reference number. I'm trying to see if I can show you. It'll let me. Okay, there we go. Okay, this is a settled batch outline. But as you can see here, it has a batch reference number. So if you were going to choose settled batches, you can go back to even further. If you just click on that reference number, you can see that individual transactions of that batch. Okay, so this is settled batch outline. Like I did, I entered the from and to date. You submit, and this will provide a report to see multiple batches of that transactions that make up that batch and all in one area. Okay, back under reporting, we have the payer card expiration. Basically here, this was going to allow you to see if there's any credit card you have on file for recurring transactions that are going to expire or have expired. And back under reporting, we have recurring query. This is where you're going to be pulling report of recurring transactions by your groups or your schedules. As you can see, I already have some groups already made and some schedules. So this is where you'll be pulling those transactions. Okay. So we're leaving the reporting tab. We're going to configurations, and we're going to choose users. This is where you'll be recreating your user profile for your employees that need access to the virtual terminal for processing and or reporting. So you'll click on add new user, and you will enter the username. You cannot use the email address. This username will need to be unique to that employee. Second option is you can add the email address here. And then there's options here that will let you manage what you allow and what you do not want your employees to do on the terminal. As you can see the boxes here that has a dollar amount, you can set the limits, um, the dollar amount limits of what you would like your, what you basically give them permission to allow what that permanent limit on that credit card or virtual checks if it was enabled. You have that option to do so here. And now we're going back under configurations. We have email notifications, and they have some few options here for you for credit and virtual check. We're going to go to general email settings. This is where you will go to select what you want to receive notifications of and where you want those notifications to go. You have the options to choose a one-time transaction setting, and this is going to send you a confirmation every time a payment that's been processed or that's being sent out. I see a question in the chat. How do you change your username? So you are going to go, Josephine, I guess they can go through, does the admin will have to change that for them if they are not the administration on there, or?
No, I believe they can change, the admin can change it for them. So if you go back to configuration into user, then you can change their username. But I believe you can also change your own.
You can change your own, okay, if they have that access.
That is correct. Yes, okay. If they have that access as the admin too. If you made them as admin, I believe they can change their own name as well.
Okay. Hopefully, Charles, that answered your question for you.
Show him where to go. Okay.
So this is here where you are going to go, is under configurations, users, and this is the user management. So this is here where you'll update whatever user or unique username that you want to use. You can do so here.
And Charles, to let you know, there's a limit on how many characters. That's why the email doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
So just FYI, the email address in this system isn't used because it doesn't like that email link there. So it'd be anything other than the email address.
Okay. Can more than one person be in the account at one time? That's a good question.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, this is Josephine. Yes. If you sign up with if they each have their own username, then they can each be in the account under their own login. But if you have one login and more than one person tries to log in, it's going to kick somebody out. And for Charles, you can add new user. Yes.
Yes, that's where you'll go to add whatever unique username that you have that you want to put to process in the terminal.
Okay, so voids are going to take about 3 to 5 business days before that money goes back onto their account. And a void is anytime you process a transaction that same day and then you find out that it's not what the customer wanted, so you go in and you void it. So it's going to take about 3 to 5 business days for the issuing bank to release that hold. Does that answer your question, Jennifer? Okay, so your question is, if a patient pays for a copay and then decides to leave without being seen, is void the best option?
Can you check the email to see if insurance cards got sent to me?
That is a good question. I
Yeah.
don't know how to answer that question for you because it's really based on business practice. Some merchants do not like to void, and some merchants don't mind voiding. So just to let you know the difference between void and refund. A void is anytime the transaction is still in the system and you have not batched out. If you batch out the system and then you go back and do a refund, then they'll see that refund instantly, like the same way they would as a credit card. But as far as which one is the best option, that's up to your business practices, because I've heard merchants say they won't do refunds, they'll only do refunds, they won't do voids. Some say they want to do voids, they don't want to do refunds. So that's up to your business model.
Okay, thank you, Josephine. Okay, any more questions before I begin? Refunds will only be done after the day has been batched out. Yes, correct. Okay. All right, I'm going to continue. We were under email notifications, general email settings. Okay, so like I said, the one-time transaction setting, this will send you a confirmation every single time a payment has been processed. Now, if you don't want a confirmation every single time a payment that's been processed, every single time it's being sent out, we will ask that you use a not so monitored email account. Like I had here, no reply at paya.com or whatever account you have for your DBA or company's account. You can do so there. Then under here we have the recurring transaction settings, and this will send you an email that shows you an upcoming recurring payment or payments that were processed. Then you have the credit card expiration notification settings, and this will send an email to you and your customer, basically saying the credit card on file is about to expire, or that it's time for the customer's recurring transactions information to be updated. And then last, you have your batch close setting notification. This is going to send you an email by the end of the day showing you that your batches have successfully settled. And that is the general email notification settings. Back under configurations, we're going to talk about the credit card order confirmations. And these are templates or emails that are going to be sent out to your customer, letting them know that your payment successfully processed. You have the options to change the templates around with the subject line, or you can either use our defaulted one that's provided by Paya. And then we have the credit card recurring confirmation. Same thing. You can use these templates. You can turn it around to your liking. You have the options to change that as well, or you just use ours that's defaulted by Paya. All right, we're going to configurations and now to risk controls. Now, all transactions that are going to be processed on the Paya Gateway, it can be safe and secure. If you do want additional security on your transactions, starting with CVV on credit cards, you can select that needs to be required when you're processing transactions. There's also advanced CVV options as well. So whichever applies to you that you would like to do, you can choose that as well. If it's domestic or internationally, or both. And then you have AVS options. AVS stands for Address Verification System. And this is going to allow you to ensure that that billing address of your customer matches completely or maybe partially to what the bank has on file. Okay? Under under configurations, we have account settings. Only thing here that you'll be able to do here is basically if you need to change out your customer service number, you can do so here and you can update. Next, under configurations, we have IP restrictions. This is going to allow you to block any unwanted IP addresses from processing payments on the Paya Gateway. And then here we have receipts, credit card receipts. This is the receipt you can print and hand off to your customer. You can also customize these receipts to your liking for the customer, or you can use the one defaulted by Paya. All right, if there's any other questions for what we just went over before I begin talking about the other options that we have here on the terminal, you can do so now. I'll wait a little bit to see if anyone has any questions for that. Okay, so I'll continue on. Okay, so our next tab we have is the shopping cart. This is where you're going to be getting the link to use to connect to your Paya Gateway, to your website to sell your products online. And here is the link here under integration code. This is where you're going to be integrating it within your website from the gateway to accept those payments. All right, there's a few little options here we're going to talk about. The next option here on the shopping cart configuration, you have appearance. This is where you can enable any type of text you would like, fonts, colors, etc. to your liking. Then we have shopping cart configuration. This is within on the Paya Gateway. You can select the types of transactions you're going to want to allow. Question. You guys will not be selling products online? Okay. Okay.
Jennifer, let me
Yeah.
step in and answer this question about the selling of the products. This particular website here is not really designed for a patient portal. Unfortunately, it's not designed for patient portal. However, there may be an option. I'm not sure if this particular terminal has this option for the patient portal, but if that's what you want, we can talk a little bit later about what options you have for patient portal and what Paya has.
Okay. Awesome. So basically here, it's just sorry. This is the like I said, this is the link that you would get. This will configure on the gateway. You can select the type of transactions you're going to allow. This is where you be putting in your URL links here for approved and decline. This is going to direct that customer to that page based off of those approval or decline statuses. And then next, after configuration, you have the customization, and that's just additional shopping cart text and what you want to be displayed on that shopping cart page. Then you have the banner image. This is where you can upload your company logo to end up on that shopping cart page. Okay, back on the shopping cart, we have departments. Now the departments are going to allow you to compartmentalize what products you are selling. I already have a few departments under here, but if you have a new department you would like to add, you just add new department. And you can just, whatever that department name may be, if it's dresses or candy or toys, you can name that as well. Make sure that that active is checked. look like. So I have Candy here, active. Once you have added that department, it will end up here on this list. After adding that department, you will go to products. And here, you will add your products to that department. So I already have a few here. So if I choose fruit cell, if I want to add a new product for fruit cells, I can do so here. You can make sure that status is set to active. You can enter a part number, which it has an asterisk, so it has to be a unique part number. Here, a description on what that fruit cell is. It can be, I'll put strawberries, and you can put the detailed description or whatever. If it's like one small case of 40, what have you. The price of those strawberries, $6.99. If tax is applicable. If you have a product of that, if you have an image of that product, you can put so here. Now, if it is larger than 100 by 100, you will have to use this field here where it says large image URL for that image of that product. And you will add product. Oh, my part number, that's right. Sorry about that. You will add product, and as you can see, my department now has the product for my fruit cells. Okay, back under the shopping cart, we have the shipping options. This is how you're going to plan to ship the products to the customer here. So you will have those options to choose how you would like that to happen. Sales tax, you can enter the tax to automatically apply to the customer's transactions. Then you have your policies. This is where you'll go to enter that service info for that customer, how you would like that policy to be applied so the customer will know. And you will have those options there for each one. And last, we have promotions. So in an event that you're having a sale or you're having discounts, you can go here to set that up. You will choose to add new promotion. You will enter a certain code for that promotion. The promotion type. You have options here, fixed amount, off subtotal, percentage of shipping charges, fixed amount of shipping charges, the description of that sale, if it's a dollar amount or a percentage amount, and the minimum. And if it applies for expiration, you will select apply expiration and make sure you choose the start and the end date to that. If not, you can deselect it, and then you add promotion. All right, and that is the shopping cart. And next, we're going to go to recurring. Recurring is where you will be setting up recurring scheduled payments. But before setting up recurring payments, you will have to create a group. And this group is where you're going to be compartmentalizing a payment that will be applied. So like I showed earlier, if you have a group for, just like with doctor's offices, they have insurances, co-payments, outpatient services, outpatient surgery, payment plans, you will put that group description there. And after that group is set, then you will need to go right back under recurring, and you'll need to go to schedules. So when you're adding your schedule, so when the payments are going to run, you'll put that description here. You'll want to identify how that payment is going to run, what type it is. So if it's monthly, let's say in intervals you want it to come out once a month, you can put 1. If it's bi-monthly, you can put 2, and so forth. You also have the type to choose for daily. Daily is automatically set for 7 days. If it's going to be bi-weekly, you will put 14, which is 2 weeks. All right. To start and the day of that month will need to be applied. If it's on a non-business day, so let's say if it falls on a weekend or a holiday, you can have that payment come out before, after, or that day of. Let me see a question. Let me see. Currently, we do not store credit card information. What is the guidelines to be set up recurring, and the information is stored in PIA only? What's the guidelines to be set up as recurring, stored? Well, I think, let me see. Josephine, you want me to just continue with recurring to see if that will answer Jennifer's question, or?
It's not gonna answer it.
It's
So
not?
Jennifer, what happens, I'm sorry, so what happens, to answer your question, is that the credit cards are stored in PIA Secure Server. So as far as the liability on your side, it's not gonna be stored on your station, or it's not gonna be stored anywhere other than PIA Secure Server. So that's where it's gonna be at. Yes, it's only in PIA. So it's and it's in what we call the vault, so it actually tokenizes all the credit card numbers. So you wouldn't be able to go in and get that credit card number at all. If the only thing you would be able to use is to go back in and reuse that same credit card if that's what they want to reuse. But it's all truncated. You wouldn't be able to. And it's on the PIA side. Okay.
Thank you.
So if somebody wanted to do a payment plan.
You're welcome.
You can set up as
Okay.
recurring.
All right, so on the recurring, we're going to go to new recurring transaction before we talk about transactions first. So the new recurring transaction, there's no stars, as you can see, indicating that it needs to fill out, but if you are storing customers' information here, it is required that you need to have everything filled out here. Just like before, when we were in transactions earlier, we have the telephone and email. These can be used for reporting purposes only. Third-party reference, if you have a unique customer number, you can put that there for reporting purposes. And here you have the transaction information here. Make sure that status, if it's active, it's active. Making sure you choose what schedule it is, what group it's coming from, the transaction type is on sale, when that start date is going to happen for them. If there is no exactly what limit or how many times it's going to be processed, you can use the process item indefinitely. You will choose yes. If it's a no, you need to put how many times that payment needs going to be processed. Times processed will let you know how many times that has been processed. You put in your dollar amount, your tax if it's applied, and then you have your card number and expiration. As you can see here, the CVV is not an option here, and that is due to our PCI compliance and security purposes. So once you have all this filled out and you put add recurring transaction, this will take you to the transactions list. And here you can do a search to see what recurring customers you have for transactions, and you can do a general search. So you can choose how many active, how many inactive, which group and schedule it is, but I'm going to go with all so you can see how it looks. And just like in batch management, you have your export options again, and you have some extra options as well for each recurring transaction. Okay, for editing, if you need to delete this transaction, you're no longer needing it, my advice is that you need to edit first, and you need to make sure the status is inactive, and then you update, then you're able to delete. So if you're going to delete, make sure you edit, it stays active, update, and then you can delete. All right, then we have process. And in process, process. This allows you to see all the processing. If you want to process that, if you want to process another transaction or another one-time payment, you can already do so here. Back to transactions, you have the recurring history. Now here, this is going to allow you to see any recurring payments that were processed. And then account history allows you to see all of the processing history throughout the recurring transactions. Okay, all right, and that is the recurring tab. Next, you have this import tab here. This is going to allow you to import multiple credit card for mass processing. You can also upload like products or departments for the Paya shopping carts and credit card recurring. But if you are interested in more about importing, you do have to reach out for our support team for additional assisting and more information on that. All right, and last here we have the help tab. Only thing you'll be utilizing here is the knowledge base. And here, this is where you can look into what decline codes may look like and what they mean. There's a lot of helpful tutorial videos here, user guides, etc., or letting you know if there's any service interruptions or maintenances. Okay, but that does include the Paya webinar at this time. Just want to make sure, were there any last questions for us?
Just went up the batch summary. Is that everything we've done for the day? Do we print that off? Like we do our batch summaries on the credit card sheets. Because you know we do our batch at the end of the night. It prints off everything. So is that something that's going to be
Yeah, so when you're processing transactions and when we went to view current batch, that's letting you know everything that's been processed for that day. But if you want to see an extensive more list of your batches, you can put in the transaction search and you'll be able to see more of your batches then.
She did. She called. It's verified. She verified. We can see her bitches.
I don't know about a text, Josephine, if you put in the customer's phone number.
No.
We don't have that system is not that advanced, yeah. Okay,
Maybe in the future, but at the moment it's not that advanced.
okay. Medical doctor office, I assume, uses patient account number as account number in Paya.
That's up to you.
Yeah.
That's a business decision for you to make as far as what account numbers you want to use.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jennifer and Charles, for attending the webinar today. Like I said, if you do have any more questions, you can reach out to us in customer enablement or support@paya.com. You're very welcome.